do that. Do. Welcome to the ADHD Roundtable. I am Jess and this is our 12th episode. I'm so excited to have these wonderful people on today. If you are new to the ADHD Roundtable, it is an open discussion about ADHD to bring normalcy to neurodiversity while engaging in deep conversations and having lots of fun. So if you have questions for us and you're live, feel free to chat them to us. If you're not live, leave the comments and I will respond to them at some time. So happy to have you all here. I love this question. It's usually the first question I start with. What is a recent ADHD moment that you've had? It doesn't even have to be recent because time is whatever, but a moment of ADHD that you would love to share with us. Who would like to go first?
On the phone to my son, asking him where my phone is.
Yep.
Very typical.
Excellent.
I think that this happens to me every single day, multiple times a day. I'll be having a thought and I'll be wanting to convey that thought and then it just flies away. It's completely gone. And then I just have to be like, it's gone. Because sometimes it comes back and sometimes it really doesn't. And so now I just have to make peace with myself and be like, that thought's gone. I guess it wasn't meant to be here. But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I fall victim to that quite often. Well, two things just happened to me right before this. Number one is I was packing lunch for my 3 kids, which is my least favorite part of my day. And I got 99% of the way through, and then I stopped because the last step of filling their water bottles just irks me to no end. So I just save it for the next day. And then I hate it the next morning, but I do it every time. And the next thing was, I don't do this often because I am a big, I don't know if I call myself a minimalist, but I'm very good with watching my spending. I don't like clutter. I have a home organizing business. We can get to that later, but for whatever reason, Instagram kept feeding me pen art. So I bought myself pens to become a pen artist. So they just came in the mail.
That's
so
very
we'll
ADHD.
see how I do.
Very ADHD.
I had to bring them because my husband's an artist, and he sent me a picture when I was at work. He's like, "Are these for you? Did you buy these?" And yeah, they're mine. They're for me.
That's awesome.
Okay.
So bad.
Speaking of projects and fun things, so if anyone watching this is new to the ADHD community, one of the words that you'll hear in that space is hyperfixation. And that's when you get into a space of focusing so clearly on the project that you're working on, whatever it is, and then you might forget to eat or drink water or realize that 6 hours have passed or a day and a half or whatever. That's hyperfixation. So my question to you all is, what is your current hyperfixation? And try not to go off in a 30-minute tangent, make it a 2-minute.
2-minute tangent from an ADHDer. That's funny.
Give us the short version.
I have a current hyperfixation food. Does anybody else get hyperfixated on a food where they'll eat it for a year and then be like, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever had? Okay. My current hyperfixation food, so this kind of falls in that, is the dried mango from Trader Joe's. I can eat 8 bags a day. 8 bags a day. Not really, but it's I have to have it as often as possible. My other hyperfixation is women in business. I have been, since I was younger, I didn't realize this was a hyperfixation until I started getting older and understanding what was going on. And I was like, oh, because people were like, well, how do you focus on doing what you do? I'm like, because that's my hyperfixation and it hasn't changed in a lot of years. So I'm pretty sure it's a pretty solid one. So those are the two that come to mind immediately, but definitely we have hyperfixation foods. And then eventually I will be like, this is disgusting. What else is next?
Like that. I would say, thank you for reframing that for me. Cause I was like, do I have a hyperfixation? I know that I do things, and it's hard for me to find balance because I'm trying to pursue so many things. But when you made it like, oh, this is a general area, and it like almost clicked with special interest for me, I was like, oh, I have tons of those. And I think my special interest right now is energy work, because almost everything that I hear about, my brain finds a way to tie it back to energy work. And I think my sister says that all the time. So, but yeah.
For
Awesome.
me, I'm sorry, I jumped in. For me, it's not going to be my pen art. That's just going to be a little side thing that I have fun with. But for me, it's 100% diving into the world of ADHD. I buy books, I read them, I finish them. I write notes about the things that I'm reading. When I'm driving to work, I'm listening to podcasts on ADHD. I'm listening to YouTube lectures from, the greats who teach about ADHD, from the, neurologists, neuropsychiatrists, all the people that we all know. I am obsessed. On my breaks as a teacher, I am just working on creating things for women with ADHD and just trying to figure out what that's going to lead me to. So I'm still in the process of wanting to create a community for women. And again, just like Karrie, I'm dedicated to working with women because I am one. And although I love my husband and my kids with ADHD and all the men in my life, I just understand women better because I've lived it and I am one. So I'm definitely into helping women to feel empowered and to learn about their ADHD, to be able to learn about why we think and do the things that we think and do, and to start taking the shame and guilt and blame out of the things we've done in the past and present, and to start knowing that we can overcome and accomplish if we just learn about the brain. That's mine.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah. You just summed up what I do, but with people in business. It's very similar. It's like that whole ADHD dig. It's like once you go in that hole and start reading books and gathering information, it's just like, give me all the, you become Cookie Monster, but with ADHD. You just want all the information, all the books, who are the doctors, who are the specialists, who's doing what I want to know more about is who's doing research now on women.
So
women
true.
and BIPOC communities and LGBTQ, and like who's doing the research on those, because we have white males covered. So we need the rest. And so that is more of what I continue to look for, like you were saying, Kimberly, is information. But I try to also along with you look at like newer research, what's coming out, what's the newest, latest, and greatest when it comes to women, because we're so under researched, we're so underdiagnosed. It's pretty crazy. So I love that. I love that.
It's so true too, because I think you touched on when you're researching your own chronic illnesses and conditions and things, because like the general medical community is kind of behind. And so, and it, like, especially when you go in and you try to advocate for yourself, it's just like, well, I've done the research and you haven't, that kind of thing. So that's very interesting. I think we, as neurodivergent people, are like, well, I'm going to figure it out. If you haven't figured it out, I'm going to figure it out. So,
I mean, out of the three of us, how many figured it out before our doctor did?
I mean, for me, I have not even seen a doctor because I just don't want to put it in their hands. I've had IBS since I was 18. And when I would go to the doctor, and she was a great like physician, right? But I would go to the doctor and be like, my stomach hurts. What am I going to do about this? And she'd be like, well, that's just how it is when you have IBS. And I'm just like, I don't have time for this. I'm going to find my own solutions.
Yeah.
After years of people saying, well, this is just how it is. Like when I had serious, like close to endometriosis, I think it was adenomyosis. That's what the doctor suspects. Having all those issues, it was just like, well, you just have this condition. And I'm like, well, I don't really accept that there's nothing I can do here, because I think the body is always working to repair itself. So, yeah.
True.
That's awesome.
Yes. And I think that, isn't there some research that puts IBS and ADHD together?
Yeah, because all that gut issue stuff, and then it's energetic and avoiding tangent.
Yes.
Well, my hyperfixations look a little different because I don't have ADHD. The thing that I'm currently focused on learning is human design.
Oh,
I'm like in this deep rabbit hole of that. If you're not familiar, anyone who's watching, it is something that's relatively new to our earth because the person who developed it, I think in the 70s.
yeah.
But it's based on astrology and other things, but it's like helps you understand how your energy body functions in this world. And oftentimes things that we are taught actually go against how our being wants to be in the world. And I feel like a lot of that corresponds with the clients that I work with. People with ADHD are taught you need to be in this box, and you're like, no, I don't operate that way. So I find human design fascinating, and it's been helpful for me. And then the people that I've shared it with, they're like, oh my gosh, that resonates. Every time I read a little thing, it resonates with everybody that I'm talking about it. But then particularly with my clients, I want to be able to use that in my coaching work. So I wish I could show it to you, but I actually I have a massive whiteboard in my apartment, and I drew my own chart on the whiteboard, and that's what's up there right now.
Oh,
That's
that's so cool.
looking over there. I'm like, oh yeah, my human design. That's what I'm completely focused on right now.
Do you find, because I've talked to a few human design, I have a few friends who use human design, energetics for business owners with human design, and how it's who we were before we were touched by the world. That's the way I describe it. It's who we were, right? And the ones that I've talked to, I laugh because I'm like, how many ADHDers are MGs? And they're like, like almost 100%. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, yep. There was like a study done, I guess, where I mean, I don't know like what a study is constituted, but a bunch of people who do human design came together and they realized that many of their ADHD clients were manifesting generators. And so I always joke that I'm an MG with ADHD, it's like as if we don't have enough ideas and that add the Manny Gen on top of it. And it's just like, we want to do a lot of things fast all the time. So, but do you find that, Jess, that a lot of your clients end up being Manny Gens or manifestors or generators?
A lot of them are manifesting generators or generators.
Isn't that fascinating?
It is very fascinating. I didn't even make that connection just yet because I've been doing it on my mostly with my close friends, and not all of my close friends are neurodivergent. And so I'm like, wait, right. Oh, yep. I have to go back and look because I have an app with their charts in it. So I'm going to do that after this.
I'd be fascinated to know how many have that Manny Gen.
Yeah.
Energy.
That's really interesting. Okay.
That's a fun thing to be fixated on.
Yes. I'm enjoying it. Definitely. Okay, so oftentimes I don't know how to ask this question, but there's often moments where I see ADHDers who are making a light bulb connection to something that happened, that they used to do in their past, or they were told this thing from when they were a child, but they didn't connect it to ADHD. So you're all nodding your head. So you know what I'm talking about. Tell me a little bit about an experience like that.
Well, all the experiences that I have had those many light bulbs with have been through the way that many women experience it through the diagnosis of a child. So although I had been a special ed teacher for maybe 6 years before my eldest was diagnosed, the moment we started going through the checklist for him, I was like, well, yeah, I did that when I was a kid, and check, that was me. And okay, well, you must get this from me. At first it was more sensory processing things, but then it came into, ADHD and autism as well. And since then, like I said, when I learned about RSD, the Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria, which I never heard of before it was on his list of diagnoses. And I said, wait, what is that? That's what really got me, because my whole life I felt was me living in a feeling of rejection, but not realizing that other people didn't feel that way, because you just live in your own head. And I didn't talk openly about that with my family, about my feelings, because I thought everyone just felt this crummy and about themselves all the time. But anyway, like I was saying, a lot of the stuff with the sensory processing stuff that my son was going through, like biting on things. When I was a kid, I would just chew holes in the sleeves of my shirt. And I remember my teacher coming around when I was chewing on my hoodies, like the strings of my hoodies, they'd always be in my mouth. I had to stand when I was cutting with scissors, just little things like that I remember that I needed to soothe myself. Big nail biter all the way through high school until my stepfather paid me to stop biting my nails. And that was intriguing to me because I've always loved making money. So I was like, okay, you're going to pay me to stop biting my nails? I'm in. $50. That was a lot to me as a ninth grader. So I was like, yeah, I'll stop. And I haven't bit my nails since. But so all the things that my son was going through, and I actually just found a pair of his pajamas the other day, and the sleeves are torn up. So he hadn't done that before. He had chewed other things. But I'm like, oh, there it is. Yeah, that's about when I did it in second, third grade. So for me, it's just living that experience through my son and then having all those light bulbs. And then, of course, I can connect to other experience that I had in my teenage years, which he hasn't gone through yet, in my young adult years, which he hasn't gone through yet. But I won't speak to those quite yet, but I'll let the other ladies speak. But just through my son's experiences, lots of light bulbs.
Yeah.
I guess for me, looking back at all of my school experiences, I remember being in middle school and I would get in trouble basically because I would like not turn in something that was due, or I would not like understand that something was supposed to be happening at part of the class. And I'd be like, but she never said that. And the whole class was like, she said that 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be like, I don't know how this happened, because I was paying attention so intently the entire time. And I remember being in college and I would sit in lecture. And then if the subject matter was just too boring for me, I took a history of the Middle East class. And, the lecture was just so dense. And I would literally like go out. Like I would just not be there for an hour. And I'd look up and I'd be like, what happened? I tried so hard this time. I don't know what's happening. And I remember one incident in particular where we got together with a TA group, right? And usually I'm just trying to subdue all of my like wild energy, like. And one day I like hadn't had enough sleep and I just kind of cracked and I was just laughing hysterically. And she's like, okay, you have to go outside and you can just come back in when you're ready. And I was like, it felt like, such shame, but it was because I couldn't quite mask in that moment. It's like, this is inappropriate.
Yeah.
You gotta focus in. So I would say like a lot of my school experiences.
I would say when I'm looking at like younger me, I think I'm considerably older than all of you. I don't want to say that.
I'm 35. So
my first number starts with a 5. So I was more like 80. I was born in 73. So I'm talking about the 73s into 83. Let's say my first 10 years. That was my experience. And a couple of things that I remember was I was bullied freaking relentlessly. I mean, just relentlessly. Like I would get tripped on purpose because like kids just are so cruel. And when you're different, you stick out like a sore thumb. So you learn to not stick out at all, which is why I now wear hot ass pink, right? Like, I mean, it's the loudest color you could possibly think of, right? And this is hot pink lipstick. It's like standing out like a sore thumb on purpose. But I think a couple of the things that really started cueing me in was, first of all, I came across a report card and the teacher wrote, if Karrie doesn't, you're a teacher, Kimberly. You tell me why a teacher would write this. If Karrie doesn't stop talking, she's never going to have any friends.
Oh, brutal.
So teacher wrote that. I saw that when I was like a late teen.
Mm.
bad timing, right? So I carried that story with me for a long time, that I'm not friendly, I'm not likable. People are just pretending they like me. Do you guys know that one where you're like, they don't really like me, they're just faking it,
Mhm.
So I had that experience. They thought that I did not have a high IQ. They thought they were going to need to like hold me back. And it ended up being the other way. So I went to a different school. And I remember things like, I'm horrible at spelling, but there was this incentive in the spelling test that I really wanted. My teacher would give us a used racquetball that she used that morning. And we were all like, everybody wants a racquetball. Now it's a ding dong thing, right? It's a racquetball. But to us, it was like, Gollum, like with the racquetball that was used by Miss Lipson, right? So everybody wanted the racquetball. And I was a horrible speller, and you'd have to get 100%. So I would try so hard, and spelling was horrible. But I think the real moments when I really realized what was happening was when I had been diagnosed with depression and anxiety for 12 years, and going, there are still things that do not fall under either of these categories, and I don't know why. And so I just kind of kept exploring. I'm like, why am I still fidgety? Why am I still forgetful? Why am I still 3 minutes late to anything that doesn't involve a client? Why are all of these things happening? And I was kind of looking around, and somebody who's a massive influencer, she's like, I was 47 before I was diagnosed with ADHD. And I'm all, what? I'm like, that wasn't even on my radar until it was. And then once it was, and I went and read the symptoms, I'm like, hooray. I finally found the answer why they told my mom to give me coffee when I was a little kid, because it's a stimulant and it would help with the hyperactivity, because I'm combined type. So I have inattentive and hyperactive. So it was little things from being a kid, and then some of these things where I just could not put it together, like why I would behave a certain way. And once I finally understood that ADHD was the thing, I was like, tick, 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 tick. Like, these things just locked into place. And I had so much better of an understanding of the rejection sensitivity. My other one is justice sensitivity. Whoo! If you feel like, you've been done wrong, or somebody's done something to you and you feel like, you're not getting justice for it, that's another sensitivity. For other people, we have that for other people. I really had to stop watching news as much as possible, because it's a privileged thing to say that I can turn it off, because in the places where people can't turn it off, it's their life. But I realized that it affects me so greatly that if I watch the news regularly, I can see my depression just come. It just happens because of the injustice. I'll see something that happened to someone across the world that I can do nothing about. And I'll be like, and I'll be in bed for a week. Thank you. You know what I mean? So I had to really learn when I was getting bombarded with all of the news notifications, and I finally turned them off. That cued me into the fact that the justice sensitivity was a little bit on 11 for me, just like you were saying, Kimberly, that yours was, your RSD is, way high. So I think we figure out things before, and then I think we figure out additional things once we have the knowledge. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And you had mentioned something, Karrie, how it popped in my brain, goes along with this question, but you said how you would notice that you were doing things or thinking certain things, and then that would, you would be either experience the RSD because of it. I remember being in high school, and I guess in those teenage years when we're really starting to really change, I would come home from hanging out with friends and wonder and say to myself, why did I say that thing? Or why did I act like that? Or why did I copy what she was doing? I knew that it wasn't who I was, but I still would do it. And I had you ladies could probably relate to this, but I was just someone who would befriend or just be friendly to anyone who was nice to me. I didn't care. I didn't have a clique. I wasn't a jock. I didn't have a group. I would be part of any group. And being part of any group, I was able to fit in because I was unintentionally mirroring their behaviors, not knowing that I was doing it, but fitting in just fine. And then I'd come home and just be revisiting every conversation that I had that night and everything I did and the way that he or she looked at me and think, oh, who am I? Why do I do those things?
Yeah.
And now it all makes sense. So it's, again, with just learning about who you are by becoming aware of ADHD and reading about it and learning about the neuroscience behind it, you're able to just release some of that and understand that this was a behavior I was doing as part of my ADHD.
Yeah.
I was trying to find my way without knowing how to find my way, while knowing that I just don't fit in because I just don't, but not in a negative way. I'm just different.
Right.
But I do remember thinking those things and how hard for a teenager, especially a teenage girl, to come home and think, who am I? Who the heck am I?
Yeah, especially between 14 and 21, we're forming so much of our self-esteem and who we are and our personalities. And that's when we're getting highly criticized and judged by our peers, by even teachers. Why can't you be more attentive? Why are you so lazy? Just whatever things that came out from family or friends or, inadvertently, not necessarily always meaning to be mean to us, but thinking, oh, this will inspire them. No, it doesn't do that. It just erodes our self-esteem until we're in our 30s, 40s, however long it takes us to figure out this. And then we're like, and I wonder why I have such trouble with rejection. It's all my life, people just reject us for who we are. So what do? Like you said, Kimberly, we just chameleon. We're like, oh, I can be this with these spots here. Oh, I can be this with these spots there. And then masking happens and the masks are on so tight. By the time you figure out you have ADHD, you're like, this gonna take a while.
Yep.
It's gonna take a bit to get these masks off. For sure.
Yeah.
So when you guys are working through RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and stepping out of masking, what are some tools that you use that have worked for you, or things that you're discovering about yourself that have been really helpful?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I feel like a broken record, but literally learning if that's how it helped me. I can't say that's going to be the case for every person with ADHD, but learning what RSD was, that it's actually a real life thing with a diagnosis that someone can get. I was able to start to remove myself from situations that I start to feel that rejection straight away. Why did they say that? Why did they say it like that? Why did they look at me that way? What did they actually mean? They gave me a compliment, but that couldn't have been what they really meant to do. But I start to catch it now, knowing what RSD is. And I still feel it. I still go through it, but I'm able to tell myself, Kim, your brain is just tricking you. Your brain is tricking you. Think about all the good things that happened in that moment. Think about if there was anything challenging or negative in that moment. And, just start to compile a list in your head. Did they mean that nice thing that they said, or are they just trying to help me if it was a constructive comment that they made? Or are they really rejecting me, which 90% of the time or more isn't the case at all. People are just trying to be helpful or kind or supportive. But we just have lived with the rejection in our minds for so long that it's really hard to be able to release that and to just let things go. You can't just let them go. It's going to take time. But knowing that your brain, like I said, I like to think of it as my brain's just tricking me right now. They meant it in this way and it's all good. If I need to step away for a little, then I'll step away for a little bit. But I'm able to catch myself a little bit sooner now instead of going through the rumination for weeks at a time or longer.
Oh, yeah.
I think that this is something I'm struggling with still really bad. I think I've put off a conversation for most of the year now because of rejection sensitivity. And my sister just suggested me, I think that you have this really bad.
No.
But I also understand my emotional range, I guess. And so if I'm at a point where I'm like, I cannot handle this impact and what it's going to like, basically how it's going to stay in my psyche for many, many moons after this, I'm like, I'm going to do everything I can to pick and choose a moment where I feel stronger. So I guess it's the element of choice of time. And I think
Yes.
another technique that I use to like combat it, I say, is I actually use my justice sensitivity like a little bit. So if I feel like this doesn't always work with myself, but if I feel like this is something that needs to be said, or, you know, this is something that people need to hear, or somebody needs somebody to say this, right? This needs to be part of the conversation, then it will almost motivate me to say it, because I'll just be like, no, not while I'm here, almost. But that one's almost a little bit harder to apply. I guess if you hold yourself as like, I'm important and I need to do this for myself, then you can. But I guess I can use those together sometimes.
That's pretty cool. I remind myself a couple things. One, don't borrow trouble. So if I don't have information yet, don't pretend I do. I can't read minds. I don't know what another person is thinking. I don't know why they're not answering that text message, or why their tone in their text was different than it always is. You know, those things the things that we make up that are because we are so hyper vigilant to the most minuscule things. Whereas, let's say there's somebody, you have a friend, a few friends, and they're like, you got to meet Joe. He's awesome. And like 4 people have told you that. And then you meet Joe and you're like, I don't like Joe. And you don't know why. I just don't like him. Like, we are so much more open to receiving just energetic feedback. I think Lexi would, would agree. It's like, so I do. But back to that, don't borrow trouble. So unless I have the full amount of information, I remind myself to not make shit up. Don't make things up. Like, you're literally making this up right now, or your brain is making this up right now. That doesn't mean it's true. And I give it proof of opposite. That's what I call it personally, but I'm sure other people will call it reframing or whatever. I give myself reasons why that is not true in the moment. I never believe my first thought, because the first thought is always just that like reactionary, and then response comes after that. So I try to just remind myself that, like, okay, the first thought is kind of like the one that goes in the disposal. And then the additional thoughts are the ones that we can like clearly think through. And I would say last but not least is just stay curious. Stay curious. Why is my brain telling me this? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling such rejection sensitivity in this particular case with this particular person? Have they done something to me in the past that led me to believe that this is how they're feeling now? Or am I literally just letting my neurology take over? So truly just being curious and not borrowing trouble have been, once you become aware, awareness is first key in everything that happens for us, is being aware, okay, this is justice sensitivity. Oh, okay, this is RSD happening. Like, once we have language to use around it, it then becomes easier, because at first you're just like, I'm a crazy emotional person and my emotions are big, and people are like, your emotions are big. It's like, yeah, I know that. Like, I live in my body 24/7, 365, right? But if we know why, we can then go back, dig to the root of it, and work through it for the next time, or the next time, and the next time. So it's just really staying curious about my what my brain tries to do. I think that's a huge one.
Thank you all for sharing. This is amazing. Okay, this may or may not be applicable to everyone. So I'm thinking about everybody watching. We're like going into this holiday season where you might be with family members that trigger the fuck out of you, or uh, all of the shit likes to come out in this season of life between holidays and what's going on, like Sagittarius season and like all these different things. So if you had any words of wisdom to share to somebody who was like walking into these things, what would you tell them?
Walking into family.
Walking into hard family situations, or maybe it's not a difficult family situation. Maybe you're actually by yourself and that's the struggle, is that you're not with your family, or whatever the darkness of, like, I don't know where you guys live, but I live in Portland, Oregon, and it is dark as shit all the time. So even though I'm not going to be spending time with my family over the holidays, there are elements of things that might be difficult. But during this difficult season of things, how would you how do you navigate that, or how would you give some wisdom to somebody else who might be working through that?
That's interesting. Well, I personally I have a very big family and have lived through multiple divorces of my parents. So during the holidays, for me, the first word that comes is just hectic. There's so many people to visit, so many houses that bounce between, so that you're sharing your love and your time with everyone, which is also very hard, especially as a parent with three little children who I'm taking out of their home environment because we live in a different state than the rest of my family. So we're the ones going to them and sleeping outside of our homes and having to manage our days differently and not having our toys accessible to us, or our trampolines, or all the things that we have here that help with the sensory input that aren't other places. So for me, the best way to manage the hectic things is just to have structure. That's the best that I can do in my family. I live by structure, and I'm looking at your faces, and I'm especially Karrie, and I'm like, she felt that straight away. I need it to survive. I need it so badly. So for the holidays, Christmas Eve is with my husband's family here in New Jersey. Christmas Day, we wake up in our own home and celebrate as a family, and then we do dinner at his another in-law's house. The day after Christmas, we spend with my dad. 2 days after Christmas, we spend with my mom. And it's the same every single year. It's a lot. However, at least I kind of know what I'm going into, and I can have my brain prepared for each space that I'm going to. So that's just one example of how structure helps me manage things a little bit better. Overall, it's very overwhelming for me. It's very overwhelming. All the people to buy for, and the aunts and uncles and the godchildren and the nieces and nephews. It's become a lot. However, if I can establish a little bit of routine into it, it does seem to help a little bit. So that would be my suggestion, just to find something that works and stick to it.
Yeah. And how smart of you to understand the different rooms you're going into.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what kind of energy you need here, what kind of energy you need here, what kind of energy you need here. Oh, I don't need as much energy there. You can do a lot better with energy management if you know what you're walking into. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm glad you brought that up, because my husband and I've had to advocate for our children, or especially our child who is diagnosed. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more than just him, but right now it's just him officially. And noises he's very sensitive to noise, just as I am. Become very overwhelmed and overstimulated when there's tons of family in one small space together. And he's always the one up in the stairwell eating his dinner, because the smells are overwhelming, and the sound and the people invading the space. So like you were just saying, Karrie, how you just have to know how to, in every environment you're going to, know what's going to happen. Like, I've experienced this before in this place on this day. Okay, just remember, going into this, he's going to be in the stairwell eating, and I'm probably going to be up there eating with him, because I feel that too.
I'll see you there.
See you there. It's all good. It's all good. We'll take our breaks upstairs in the quiet when we need them. Yeah. But yeah, you're totally right. It's just like knowing that there's going to be, it's very overwhelming, but there's also safe spaces, and our kids know who to come to feel the safest with, and letting our family, just reminding them that when he's walking away, or when someone's walking away, just give them the space. You don't need to ask them questions or invite them to, no, they don't want to be invited. He wants to go away now. But yeah, just, it's just so important to know where you are and to be able to share that openly, or as open as you feel comfortable with your family.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I like that.
How about you guys?
I have two, like, if we're talking about like the dark days, I like my SAD lamp. So my seasonal affective disorder lamp, I wanted for a couple years, and then I finally like pulled the trigger and I got it. And I had no idea how much it would help. So, I think that's really great. It helps me, I think, stay lighter during the winter months. In terms of
Awesome.
family events, I really like, um, and this is not the easiest to do, but boundary work. So it, I think sometimes you can
Mm-hmm.
almost be convinced to like, you have to stay here, you have to do this, you have to do that. The family's doing this, so you must do that. Um, and for me, I'm just like, well, I need a couple minutes to myself. I'll be back in 30. And it's interesting that after you set that boundary, people actually do become more accepting of it. It's almost like they have to get used to it in their mind. But
Mm-hmm.
if they really love you, then they're like, this is just what she needs. She needs to go and take a minute. She needs a break. And so, yeah, I think just boundary work, because if you just go along with things, and I think you can end up hurting yourself. So it's something I work on all the time. But
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's good. I would say mine too are, so one of my biggest sensory issues is if a handful of groups of people, saying twos or threes, packs of twos or threes, are standing around talking and they're all talking at the same time, but not about the same thing.
Mm.
That's when my brain goes, and it's yelling at me like there is too much shit happening right now. Run, Forrest. So I use loops. So loops are cute little earbuds you can use, and they have all different levels of concealing hearing or being able to hear more. Started using them for concerts. How I really realized that those were a thing before I even had ADHD was I kept leaving my earbuds in my ears with no music on. And I'm like, why do I do this? Like I noticed months afterwards. And then one day I saw Loops advertise them all. What are these? Like, they're earplugs, big deal. And I'm like, oh, I already do this. I had no idea. But like if I'm at a place where there's a lot more going on than my brain is able to handle, putting in my earbuds, or if I have my loops with me in, help tremendously. Not having my back towards all the people who are talking, like facing forward with them, that is helpful. And my husband understanding that sometimes we need to take two cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge one. Like, that was again before ADHD diagnosis. I'm like, I hit a point where it's like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm done. And when I'm done, I gotta go. And he could go all night and sit and talk with people. And I'm like, I do not have that capacity. Bless you. It's all you. But he understands that, right? So understanding why you do certain things, that it's like not like really helping people understand this isn't personal and it isn't you. Like, how often do we say that? It's not personal. This is not personal. This is not personal. It's personal to us. But, I mean, I have a small family. My family that gathers together is usually pretty small. This year, we're going to have more people than ever. So I'm going to be like, loops, earplugs, and outdoor walks. It's like, go outside if you can and breathe in some actual like fresh air of some sort, if you can, if it's not too freezing cold, depending on where you are. Because sometimes just taking a minute and having like different air hit your face will also just kind of breathe a little bit of life into you. So I would definitely say to, if you need an exit plan, have one, and to utilize different tools before the day you get there, so that if you have been using them on a regular basis, they're easier for your brain to go to because of neuroplasticity, right? So it's like the more you do something over and over again, the more your brain's going to go there first. So using a lot of these different tools before you have to use them can be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
So I think those are my tips. Loops.
I like that neuroplasticity piece. I was like, yes.
I love me some nerd words, girl. Give me all the nerd words all day long. I will take them. Thank you. Yes.
Oh man, you guys had some great things to share. I think one thing that I would add, something that I've said to clients and have had to use for myself is reminding myself that like their feelings are not my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Their feelings are not
Mhm.
my responsibility. And so when I, particularly with people who are very close to me in like parent, sibling, the people that you grew up with, I've had to remind myself of that over and over again. And when I tell that to other people and they hear it for the first time, they're like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, oh, right. So that person gets to have their feelings, but I don't need to fix it. I don't need to be responsible for it. I don't need to change it because they might be moving through something that has nothing to do with me. I just happened to be there as it was happening. And so now I'm trying to take it on as mine. Like, no matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to fix this particular thing about this person. This is how they are. Now, if they ask for support and it's consensual, that's a whole other thing. But I don't need to take it on as my own in order to make it better for somebody else. That's not my job. So know that you are only responsible for you. And if you have like small children, you're responsible for them too. But outside of that, you're responsible for yourself and that's it.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. And it's a hard one to continue. Like I've been practicing this for years. So now I've gotten to a point where like I just had a really hard conversation with my mom. And she's probably having some feelings about it, but I'm like, I'm not doing this dance with you anymore. And I love you so much. So let's talk about this. But before you get to that place, you have to deal with, oh yeah, this is mine, this is yours. This is mine, this is yours.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the people pleasing, we don't know where we end and others begin for so long. And once we figure out where our skin ends and their skin begins, we're like, oh, wow, that's really not mine. Not even a little bit. Because most of our life will be like, oh, they did this and they did this. I must have done blah, blah, blah. And then you figure out, you're like, oh, wait, it's their shit. This isn't my shit. This is their shit. I don't have to carry their shit around. They can put it in their own bag and take it with them. It's like, it's important to disconnect your skin from somebody else, like know where that space is. And that can be hard for us.
Yeah. I mean, as women, we're taught that we're all connected and have to be together anyways. And then on top of that, having ADHD, it's even harder to separate that. So,
oh yeah, and we get hyperfixated on people.
Yes.
We will hyperfixate on people, on new friends, on like there are things about our hyperfixation that are good, but if we're not careful, they can not feel good to other people. So it's like we have to be just really super cognizant of those things, especially with like codependency and things like that. That's my opinion.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna completely just segue into something different. And thank you all for sharing. This has been, I imagine, so helpful for anybody who might be watching. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I always do introductions halfway through an episode. So tell me who you are, what you do, if there's anything you want to tell people about that. Shameless plug, this isn't the time to do that.
Thanks for offering that. It's so nice.
You're welcome.
Well, I am a 12th year special education teacher in South Jersey, and I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until just less than 2 years ago, but it changed my world. Right before that, I started a home organizing business because I was seeking something different. Having worked in the same job for 10 years, I was getting bored. And we all know that boredom never looks good on someone with ADHD. So like, I'm so bored. I need something else to do. So home organizing it's actually started with classroom organization. I was finding with each child I had, so I guess, hormonal shifts and whatnot too, and just the extra things that we have to learn to prioritize and organize for other humans. really was bringing this new side out of me, or making my symptoms really pop out as being great and being challenging. Anyway, as a teacher, I was finding I couldn't even concentrate on my students at my table because their stuff was around them. I could see their desks behind them and all their stuff everywhere. It was driving me nuts. And so I would, work to color code and help them to eliminate and declutter stuff. And so I started helping teachers in the school to do that in their classrooms. And then a friend asked if I would do her pantry. And I said, sure. I mean, I organize my own home, but I've never done it for someone else. So I went to her house and did it. And that was the end of that story. Fell in love. And organizing is not easy for me, but it is a creative outlet that gets my body moving. It allows me to test out different products and aesthetics, which I find very fun. And it also helps me. I feel like one benefit that I really have with having ADHD and with being able to read people really quickly when I meet them is knowing how to understand the struggles that they're having and not giving them a specific plan that they have to follow that everyone else follows, because we all have to figure out a way of organizing and creating systems that are functional for you and the way that you live in your home. And I feel like I have the benefit of, when I work with a woman, I can just like pick that energy up real quick and I can establish that relationship. And I could say, even though I do it this way in my house, I could see that you work in this space a lot differently. So what are your thoughts on putting this here, or storing this in this type of containment, or using blank, blank, blank? And to see the stress that's relieved from them, and to see their stories of how months down the line they've maintained the space the way that we put it.
Wow.
And it doesn't have to be, I like the aesthetic stuff just because it's fun to see that, but not every client wants the pretty bins and baskets. Sometimes it's just the decluttering and teaching the habits of what to put in place to be able to maintain your space. And that's the way I live in my own home. So that was a long story of saying that I also have a home organizing business. It's called A Balanced Abode and J. I had some alliteration from from being a teacher. And I have an Instagram that you could follow, and there's some freebies on there. I'm creating a ebook right now that teaches the steps that I teach my clients in person, of how to break that thing of decluttering and organizing, which may sound fun and easy because it's 2 words, but there's a long list of tasks underneath of it, which is why when so many people dive into it, they lose steam halfway or become overwhelmed halfway, because they're not recognizing that there's so many parts to it, to each of those decluttering and organizing steps. So I'm working on an ebook right now, and then, other things popping up there. So if you wanted to follow me there at A Balanced Abode NJ, grab a freebie, follow along on that fun little journey. And then I also am working to just spread awareness about ADHD through my other Instagram handle called Her Kind of Mind.
Excellent.
That was really long. I hope you girls take a minute to explain yours too.
That was really interesting. I loved hearing more about organizing. So
Thank you.
like, wow, this is really cool.
I loved hearing that you have 2 Instagram accounts. Like most ADHDers have like at least 3, 4 for different.
More.
Yeah. And there's only like 1 or 2 we actually use.
Yeah.
Like 17 of them. Yeah. So
yeah, I've had a teachers pay teachers one. I've done that. Yep.
That's awesome. How about you, Lexi? Do you want to go next?
Sure. Well, I do energy work and I do hypnosis. And yeah, it's pretty different. I would say how that relates to this panel, this session, would be that I'm finding that a lot of my clients are neurodivergent. And it's amazing. I've sat with people in the past, people who have ADHD, and after we do the work, they're like, wow, the energy felt so busy before. It felt so pushy. And now that we've done, I do a lot of clearing work now. So clearing energies from the space. And I think as a society, we often don't know a lot about our energy. We don't know a lot about how to maintain our energy, how to manipulate our energy. We just don't know a lot about it at all. And so I think we have beautiful and creative brains. Like, I think our idea generation and our connection points are so powerful. But sometimes we haven't done the energetic cleanup to make that work the best for us. And
Ooh.
so, yeah, it's really cool. I'm sitting with a lot of neurodivergent individuals right now and finding out, especially how much more open they tend to be to energetic stuff. And so I feel like they really, really need this. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you guys like it, then you could check out my website, which is lexisoul.com. But that's pretty much what I do.
And she's
Clear things up.
fucking good at it. I've had the privilege of working with Lexi. And
Lexi, are you local do you only do local work, or are you able to do virtual work?
My entire business right now is virtual. So
Yeah, because I know some people could do like virtual Reiki and all that stuff. And I'm like, how do y'all do that? But that's interesting. I'll have to connect with both of you.
yeah, well, I think
Very
what's really nice about what I do is it's very demonstrable. It's almost like hypnosis too, where it's just like,
Yes.
how did you feel before? Now, how did you feel after? Like when I sit with people, I'm really proud of the work that I do in that one, I teach people not to need me. I'm like,
Yes.
here are tools
So
that,
important. So
yeah,
important.
here are tools that you can take and use for yourself, right? Later. And then I teach them how to, I guess, I like to say I help them understand more about how their energy works, what it feels like, right? Um, but yeah, you don't need to be in the same space to do energy work. Oh, that's the ADHD is working. I was like, where was I? What was I talking about? It's demonstrable. So like when we sit and do energy work, I check in with people and I say, how do you feel? How did you feel before? How do you feel after? And they'll be like, oh my God, it was so heavy before. I didn't even know that was there. And now all of this energy left. I feel lighter. I feel like freer, or I feel something moving, something like that. So it's really cool to help people get in touch with that for themselves, you know.
That is cool because energy doesn't leave. So energy just becomes a different form of energy. So you're helping them literally move energy out of their bodies. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's so important. I think that we're made of energy. Like
yes.
our body, like our organs run on an energetic process. Like so much of us is energy, but I think as humans, we almost only see the physical part of it. So, but it really needs to be talked about, and I'm excited about. I think this is long-term future. I'm excited about science and energy work really overlapping, seeing how we can improve
It's
people's health.
happening. It's
Yeah,
happening. It's
yeah.
happening. They're doing those. They're doing that research. They're doing
Yeah,
that study. I was just
seeing
talking
how
to
that
someone
can
about this.
improve health outcomes is
Yes.
that is really interesting to me. I'm so passionate about it. For neurodivergent individuals, I think so much the conversation is about how you're wrong and how, you know, what you can't do and all these things, right? And it's just like, well, what if that's not the case? What if you just have this extra set of abilities and the world as it's built right now is like not working for you, right? But
Well, we're innovators. So
yeah,
of course we're going to have things that come out of us that other people are going to be like, what is that? And then 5 years later, they'll be like,
I
oh,
know.
I remember when you were talking about that 5 years ago. You're like, damn, Skippy,
Oh
I
my
was,
God.
because I know, it's like
Get
we
it. I feel
know.
like looking back at my life now, I'm like, oh wait, I feel like I've been ahead of trends and information 5, 10 years before people so many times. So yeah, I'm very sure that, you know, people will be very groovy with what I do.
I can't
And
wait to talk to both of you in the DMs. Now I'm all excited. I'm so excited to have conversations with all of you. You too, Jess. This is fascinating. Was there anything else you wanted to finish up before I jumped on the
go
train?
ahead, Karrie. I'm excited to hear.
I have two
Uh,
things.
okay, go for it.
One, Lexi, for Lexi, if you all are interested in some of the work that she does, and you're still like a little unsure, if you catch one of her lives on TikTok, it'll give you a great overview of like what she does, how she does it. Because she literally does energy work with people in a chat, and it's amazing. It's like that's how I found her.
Oh, thank
Are you on
So
Instagram
cool.
too? You're going
Right
to
now,
provide
I can
everything in the
just
in the notes, Jess? Are you going to provide where everybody can be reached in the notes? Okay, cool. Then I won't worry about writing down.
right now I'm most active on TikTok and my website, but yeah, we do like live energy work on my TikTok lives, and I
That'd
literally
be cool.
people, and then it's cool because people put in the chat, they're like, wow, like I felt chills, or wow, like my stomach, I feel it in my stomach. And I'm like, okay, pay attention to that. Where did you feel it? Okay, if you're hearing things, then okay, that might mean that you have this, gift happening, and this is how we try to, work with it. And yeah, that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to know all the history behind all of that stuff, behind how that came to you. So, I am an ADHD coach and an ADHD entrepreneur mentor. So what I do is initially I helped women with anxiety because that was what I identified with, because that's what I was told I had for 12 years. And so, however, it was such a natural pivot because, like you were saying, Kimberly, it's like once you know you have it, you take this deep dive and you want to know more about it, and you want to understand it, and you want to understand it in yourself, but you also want to understand it's kind of like a spectrum, and like you like to organize things. I'd rather poke my eye out with a hot stick to hire you, because like having somebody else come and organize would be like a dream come true to me. But I'm sure there's things I do where you're just like, I don't want to do any part of that. So I have my life coaching certification twice over. I did a short one and then one that was 3 months with a master life coach, and that was incredible. And what I have found is that building a business and mindset work go together, period. And then when you have ADHD and you have things like rejection sensitivity, and you're trying to do sales, that can be very hard for people because you are basically constantly getting rejected, and you have to learn how to work within that mindset within your business. And that can translate out into the real world. It will naturally, but I married the two modalities. So instead of just being a coach or just being a mentor, I do both. And I do it within my programs. So if I can tell somebody needs the life coaching hat and they just need someone to hold space for them, and they need maybe some suggestions at the end if they want them, then I can do that type of session. If they need more of the how do I build out an email list, I can give them that information and everything in between. And I've been in business for myself over half my life. So essentially, every time I've tried to have a desk job, it has kicked me out. I have been laid off more times than you can imagine. Not fired, laid off. And finally, the universe was like, woman, when are you just going to learn and listen and do it? Just do it full time. Because I have been an entrepreneur full time in a couple of different capacities, but they were accidental businesses. This is a very intentional business with a very intentional group of clients, which is, women with ADHD often don't believe in themselves, don't believe they have anything to give, don't believe they have anything to offer. And they are the innovators and the world changers and the change makers. And so that is why once I realized that this was what I'd been contending with my whole life, that I had these very accidentally successful businesses all along the way without even knowing my ADHD was a factor. Having all of that history behind me and having ADHD, I just knew exactly who I'm supposed to be working with and what I'm supposed to be doing. So my shameless plug right now is for my newer program called ADHD Alchemy. And what that is for women who are more recently diagnosed later in life ADHD, and they haven't really walked through the emotions. They haven't really walked through how it's making them feel, or why they're feeling every single emotion all at once and they can't figure out what they're feeling at all, and how to deal with relationships and boundaries being a new thing, and all of these pieces of information. So I created 8 modules plus support sessions by me, and I am a bridge. It's funny when you said you were a bridge, Jess, because I was like, yep, that's it. I'm a bridge from the diagnosis to, okay, here's how we're going to figure out how your brain works, and then you're going to have the ability now to go out into the world because now you understand yourself very well. And that came to me at like 4 a.m. one morning, and I'm like, I need to put this together. So anything I could think of that I wish they would have handed me when I got diagnosed, because there's like, here's your diagnosis, here's your meds, bye. And I was like, wait, what? Like there's no instruction manual, there's no guidebook, there's no nothing. And when I realized that was happening to a lot of women, I was like, well, I can help. I can help facilitate that. I can help women with just that life coaching piece and help them from one end to the other, from one side of the bridge to the other side. So that is my like pride and joy as far as my ADHD work. And then I have a full program that's for building a business from beginning to end. So basically from concept to completion, but also all the mindset work woven in there too. So that by the time you're done, it takes about 3 months total. By the time you're finished, you not only have your business ready to go, you also have your mindset shit together so that when you go out of the gate, you are going out of the gate whole. So that's what I do.
That's amazing. I need that very badly.
Come on down. There you have a spot for you.
You got me. I love the name of it. Was it ADHD Alchemy? I was like,
yeah.
I put in my bio, I'm an ADHD alchemist. A little bit of magic. Because I believe in science, but I also believe a little woo. And I kind of marry them all together. So when Lexi's like, I do energetic work, and Jesse's like, I love human design, I'm like, I'm in the right group of people right now. And Kimberly's like, I'm just starting a business. I'm like, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Different things, so. But yeah, I love it. I love
really good grouping. I'm very pleased to learn about everything girls do. It's super cool.
Yeah. And I love what I do. I've always been focused on loving on other women. I just didn't understand it was like a skill. I didn't know that was something that you could make into work. And I'm like, this is work. This is my job. Like there are days I wake up, I'm all really, I just talk to people and help them.
Yeah.
I can do that. Also, it feels really good.
Nice. I'm Jess. I'm an ADHD coach. I have 2 things I want to talk to you all about today. One is I'm about to go into my little cave and bust out my next book. I'm going to take the concepts that I teach in one of my programs, ADHD Get Shit Done Bootcamp, and put it into a book. And so I don't know when it will be ready, but I'm about to go in my cave and write it over the next week and a half. So that will be coming sometime next year. And then the other thing, that one of my programs is called Fucking Little Tasks. Lexi mentioned it earlier.
It's great. I honestly feel like I've gotten more work done than in months. So I am here for this program.
The idea of Fucking Little Tasks came around the idea of like body doubling. I recognize if you're not aware of body doubling, anybody who's watching, it is essentially like there's some magic that happens when there's another person to help ground you in the thing that you're working on. You don't have to be doing the same thing, but if you've ever been on the phone while cleaning your house, that is a form of body doubling. And so there's something magical about that for ADHDers, and I've seen that, and because I've been around a lot of ADHDers most of my life, and I have a lot of grounding energy in my birth chart. There's a lot of earth energy in my chart. So like the 2 combination, I'm like this perfect person to be like, hey, this is the thing you were working on. How's it going? Hey, this is the thing you were working on. How's it going? Or here's the little kick in the ass with lots of love and a hug. So that's why I created Fucking Little Tasks, because everyone has fucking little tasks that are on their list that have just been like gnawing away at your brain that you haven't done and you've been putting off for 6 months. And if you would just do it, it might take you 10 minutes. And so that's the space for you to do it. And in a community of ADHDers who are going to just love the fuck out of you and support you and not shame you for the thing that you didn't do, and not bulldoze you into having to do it either. It's just a safe space to get some things done. And you have a coach there. So I lead some of the calls, but we have 5 calls a week. So, and I have other coaches who lead them too. And so then you have a person there to be like, I don't even know what the fuck to work on today. That was Lexi yesterday, right?
I was burnt and I was just like, I'm just going to get on this call so I can think, but I don't think I can do anything. And it was great. And I always feel like it is a safe space too. I wanted to mention that because I feel like, you know, you have to put on a lot of different hats in life. And I just kind of come there and I'm like, yeah, you know, so it's great.
Yeah. All parts of you are welcome in this space. And the other aspect of it is we do a group coaching call once a month as well. And I'm trying to get us to use Marco Polo more, but there's a element of, you know, you can message people and not be alone and, you know, celebrate your wins together and also be like, fuck, this is hard right now. So that space is in general $50 a month, but I often have promos for $40 a month. So come check it out, message me about it. And yeah. Oh, I had another question. Kimberly, if people wanted to work with you to help get their place organized, do they have to be local? Do you work with people online? How does that work?
Thanks for asking. I do a lot of in person, and I do, you know, I'll travel a little bit within the area within an hour, but I do offer virtual services too. And I have worked very successfully with people just working through priority spaces in their own homes, and just it goes along with the body doubling 100%. So we just pick a space to start in, and then I teach them the strategies hands-on as they're physically decluttering and talking out the things that they're holding. And then we designate a space that they go and put it in straight away. There's no put it in a box for later, move it for later. No, we're doing it now. So yes, I do virtual. I've mostly done in person, but I'm really hoping to stretch out more into the virtual space just because I want to be home with my babies as often as possible. And
Sure.
I know that this is the time in life and in the world where things can be transmitted perfectly and shared virtually. So I am working, like I said, I'm making the ebook to try to have something to offer in that way, but I really love the personal contact and being able to be that person's body double and that guide live. So yeah, if they were to reach out through my contact on my website, which is again aboundsabode.com, nj.com, or they could find me just on Instagram. They could DM me about virtual services there. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
He's so cute on your Instagram. He's so cute.
Oh, are you checking? Oh,
of course. Yeah. I told you I'm obsessed with women in business. I wasn't lying. Like,
I love it.
See it now. Yeah.
I said I need you. I need
you. Oh my gosh. Okay. One last question and then we're gonna head out. Okay, I love to talk about ADHD as like there are different flavors of ADHD. So with your flavor of ADHD, what is your favorite thing about it? What's the favorite thing about your flavor of ADHD?
Mm.
And you can have more than one favorite. I'm not gonna put you in a box, but share one or two.
That's a great question.
Good question. I was just gonna say that's a mighty good question.
I think should I talk for a second?
Go ahead.
No, please do, Lexi. Yes.
Please.
I think I always, when I was younger, I always questioned, I kind of talked myself out of being a creative person. I was like, you're not creative, you're just analytical. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, you're creative. And I think now, like fully kind of sitting in my neurodivergencies, I'm like, whoa, this is really cool because I idea generate like so rapidly. And sometimes I have to think about, oh, can I actually pursue all these things that I'm generating? But I idea generate so fast. And I also love all my special interests, hyperfixations, whatever you want to call them. Like I love like my herbalism and my knitting and like, you know, my energy work and so yeah, I enjoy all those. I like my sister, I talk about my sister a lot, and she has more of like a hyperactive flavor. But she's like, why do we keep switching TV shows? It is wonderful and very, very upsetting to watch TV with you. And I'm like, but I have 6 of them going at once and I like it. It soothes my mind. I don't know.
I love it. Awesome.
For me, I do consider myself I don't know. I do think I'm creative. I love with my hyperactivity. I just love moving and changing things around. And my son's the same way. He just asked me if we can switch his room around the other day, and I was delighted because I love moving things and changing the look. But for me, I think more so than being creative, I have more of a gift of being a problem solver. And I don't like to project. I can't say that I haven't done this before, but I don't like to project solutions onto people. But in the business that I'm trying to run, especially with my organizing, when I can see something in a different way because of that creativity coming in and mixing with the solution-minded person that I am, that I feel like a lot of ADHDers are, it just adds to my benefit. And I love being able to help people see things through a completely different lens that they never envisioned before. And I think that's a gift that comes with ADHD.
That's awesome.
That's a rad gift.
Yeah.
That's a rad gift as an organizer. I'm just imagining you in someone's home, like just seeing Tetris, how it all comes together.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Yeah.
Just moving things around and seeing what looks the best and feels the best and functions the best and flows the best.
Yeah.
It is like very fun.
Yeah. It's like taking someone's house and being like, here's how all the pieces fit. They look really good. That's so cool. That's so cool.
Thanks.
I would say that for most of my life, I also didn't believe I was creative until I got my hands on Canva. Canva is like my crack. I love creating content. I love creating that stuff. I'm going to be putting together something for that. I'm like, I have to teach this because I just have some secrets that I know some basics for ADHDers would be a huge deal. So, having that creativity and acknowledging that it's real, because my husband used to tease me. He's like, you go to Michael's, but you say you're not creative. I'm like, I'm not. I can't draw. I can't paint. I can't do it. But I didn't realize it's a different kind of creativity.
Yes.
It's the ginormous number of ideas that we can come to and hold and create. That is the talent. It's not, I can hold a paintbrush or I can take photos. It's, I can look at this whole situation and tell you in 4 seconds flat what I'm seeing, you know? I love the outgoingness of my spicy flavor, which was something I used to hate. I'd want to hide. I wouldn't want people to see. I would definitely mask my lots of talking and that more hyperactive part of myself. I am a super connector. So I love meeting people and introducing them to other people. Like Lexi, I already have people I want to introduce you to. Like Kimberly, I have people I want to introduce you to, just because it's like, I know you would fit together as like people and based on what you're doing. And, you know, so I'm always looking for opportunities to connect other people, because especially ADHDers with other ADHDers, because we understand each other's brains. That's why I like being a coach to ADHDers, because we can understand, you know, each other's brains in a unique way. So I do like making that connection. And what did I say? My brand is Karrie Out Loud, because I'm willing to say the things out loud that other people aren't willing to say. And that part of my branding was very intentional. I knew it was going to be something about being out loud, but it doesn't mean yelling. Yep. It means speaking the truth, being really you. Authentic is very overused. So I like the word audacious. Be audaciously yourself, right? And I think that the outside of the box thinking is the best part. And you know, people are always saying, oh, I'm trying to put a square peg in a round hole. I'm like, honey, this is a parallelogram. Like, there's no way that is going in any kind of hole. It's got 17 sides. It's not fitting. No matter how much you whittle that down, it isn't going to fit there. So we're going to have to try to do it another way. So thinking really, really far outside of the box. And then, of course, being amazing in a crisis. Send me in, coach. You know, it's like, oh, you have a crisis going on? I'm your girl. Need something in 3 months? I'm not your girl. If we're going somewhere in 3 months, talk to me in 2.5 months. Then it'll be okay.
Oh,
but,
my God.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would just say that connecting people, connecting with people. And one of the things that I go by what other people tell me, because we definitely can't see ourselves fully. And one of my friends, actually a couple of my friends, have said, you're the kind of person that everybody who crosses your path will feel like your best friend because of how you are towards people. And I was like, that is the highest compliment like ever. Like that you make everyone feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So I love that.
That's beautiful.
That's my little spices.
Carrie's Instagram is perfection.
Thank you. I love creating that shit. I swear to you. It's so good.
I probably share one of her posts like every day.
And I love you for it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, well, I hope some neurodivergent or neurotypical folks see this as well, because I'm like, you all like neurotypicals are, if they don't have any neurodivergent friends, are missing out. Like, you are all the ones that I call when I can't do things, because we do opposite. Like, I can do things you can't do, and you can do things I can't do, but I can't look at the thing and name it in 4 seconds, where I'll just call my friend and be like, hey, I'm trying to do this. What should I call it? And they'll be like, this. I'm like, that's perfect. That would have taken me 3 months to figure out.
I think for me personally, the reason that comes so naturally is because when I was little, I wanted to name OPI nail polish. That was one of my dream jobs as a child, was I wanted to name nail polish.
I
OPI. So I just think up random names. It's like one of my useless talents is like, you want to think of a name? Tell me what it is, and let me start throwing shit out at you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
If I get stuck on a book title, I might call you.
Yeah. Come on down, sister. I got you. I'm sure any of us would be able to help you with that.
Awesome. Okay, well, Kimberly, Karrie, and Lexi, thank you so much for being on here today. This was so fun. Anybody who's still watching or watching the replay, I'll make sure their links are below so you can check out whoever it is that you were drawn to, or all of them. And we will see you at the next episode.